Hey, awesomes. Well, welcome to week 7, finally. Okay. Apologies with some personal things I had to tend to the last several days, plus my personal laptop went bye-bye. So I finally had to resort to recording here in the office. And using the office laptop. So I had to make arrangements for all that. So my sincerest apologies. So let's dive right in. Here we go. Starting to review and go over your rhetorical analysis projects. Something else we're going to do with those, and we'll start this next week, is to start reaching out to your embedded writing specialist and work on perhaps looking at a first review with them. I will be looking at them as well, okay? And give you a bunch of feedback, right? Go through those with those, take advantage of the embedded writing specialists that we have, and work on our first revisions for our rhetorical analysis paper. So as I'm working on that stuff, all right, and I'll be back with you more on kind of the instructions for that. Start thinking about our next project, okay? And this is the writing in your field, or as I call it, your passion project, just to kind of help us think about it maybe a little differently. If we're going to do all this work, try to get as much out of it as possible, if you will. So I've got the Project 2 assignment description up in this in another window here, and we'll look at that in a minute. But of course, I'm finally getting this done. So you got the 2 TED Talk videos to kind of get us thinking about what do I mean by passion, or how is it different, right, than maybe career, right, as the first TED Talk video talks about, right, Larry Smith more specifically talks about the differences in those. And then on the TED Talk second video there, Sir Ken Robinson really starts to go into detail, right, about how we can think about these things that we're passionate about, even thinking about the difference in things that are interesting versus not interesting, making an impact, these kinds of things, right? So we've got all those things going on at the same time. So hopefully you've watched those and starting to kind of just think about Project 2, because the thing we want to do this weekend is kind of start talking about what it is that we're passionate about. You know, what is it, something that's going to be basically our topic, right, for Project 2. You know, what is it? It can be something that we already have in our career. Most certainly it's not a problem, right? Just want us to kind of take time to think about it. And I'm also sensitive to the fact, too, that you're freshmen for the most part, right? So maybe we don't know yet, right, what it is we're going to do or what we're going to be, right, when we grow up. I still haven't grown up yet, so I can't answer that question either. But I do love what I do. I found something I was very, very passionate about. And so that makes this quote unquote job not so jobby, right? So just want us to be thinking about those things. We've got the video thing here, right? The second one too, before I forget, talks about, things, when we think about things that we're passionate about, we also think about things, okay, we're passionate about what are our talents, how are talents discovered. And I use talents plural because I don't think we each have just a talent, right? They are talents. So just want you to think about those. So, make sure you spend some time watching those videos and thinking about it. So let's pop over here, bring my webcam thing back up here, and let's think about that for a quick second. So we think about our passion, and then we think about what we're going to write here, just in the sense of we're going to pick that thing, right? Either we're passionate about, or maybe it is our career, and we're going to kind of do this. It's kind of a overview prospectus kind of a project here, where we're going to kind of see, okay, so I'm passionate about this thing, or this is kind of my career path at the moment. I think that I'm passionate about it, or it could be something else that you're passionate about. What does it take? What do the steps look like, right, to get there? What kind of what does it take? What are the requirements, we might say, right? Are there other things that are involved, perhaps we haven't considered, right? It kind of helps us prep. So in essence, this document, once we're done creating it, it can become like a scaffolding of things to think about as you pursue that thing, right? So if you happen to be one of those students, I already know I'm going to school for engineer, right, or nursing, or psychology, or I want to be a journalist, or whatever. That is great. There's nothing wrong with that, right? And this will help you in thinking about how to get to your endpoint, so to speak, right? If you don't know specifically, but you have a passion, something that you're passionate about, just like it would help somebody who kind of already has an idea when it comes to like a clear path versus something maybe doesn't have a clear path, in the sense that maybe you haven't declared a major yet or whatever. Because some things that we're passionate about might not have such a clear path to those. Mine certainly didn't, even though it would assume that all you got to do is go get degrees in English, but I wasn't necessarily solely interested per se in teaching English in that sense, as much as I was interested in discussing, critical thinking, and just kind of thinking about communicating in different ways. And so that kind of, through a roundabout way, I found out, okay, so to do that thing and to talk about rhetoric more specifically, this is the path, right? Because you don't get a degree per se in rhetoric, right? I had to find out through doing something like this to find out, okay, to pursue that thing I'm passionate about, that I really want to study and that I'm interested in. I found myself really thinking more about rhetoric, and linguistics was more where I wanted to kind of find myself in, so I kind of pursued that basically by kind of going through these steps. All right. Finding out more and more and more about, okay, what's the profile of this thing I want to do, right? What does it take? What's the preparation and education requirements? Any other type of experiential learning, or are there other things that I would need to do, such as be involved in school organizations, or would I need to think about doing any other type of volunteer work that would be helpful in my development of this thing I want to do, right? And then let's say, okay, once I get there, right, what other things do I need to think about? Is there something that, is it once I get to X level, then I'm done and I just kind of go do my thing, or are there other things I need to think about or prepare for, right? So we get this maintenance section here, helps us at least interrogate and think about that a little bit more. And then we also, get to controversies. Are there things in that passion? Are there things in that field? Are there things in that career that people are talking about? What are some of the hot topics, right? A lot of times a hot topic is not necessarily always controversial, but occasionally they are. So, so anyway, look into that. And then, of course, the big thing is the communication practices. Okay, so once you get there and you're in that job, what is it? What are the kind of things that you would have to write? So we want to think about, obviously, this is a writing class. So are you mostly going to be writing emails? Are you going to have to write a proposal? Are you going to have to write patient documents, right? So say if you go into psychology, what kind of notes do you have to keep? What kind of writing do you have to do in general? These kinds of things. So it helps us think about what kind of communication and writing is going to be expected of us in that position. And so we'll use these questions here to kind of help guide us to that. And then we'll get a couple of examples of what those things are. Whether you realize it or not, every career that you go into, something will be expected of you to be communicated in some form or fashion. So we want to look at those things and find some examples, of course. So now that you've done all this research, so those who are interested in, say, pursuing this field or understanding the levels of communication, what kind of advice would you perhaps give? And then, of course, obviously wrap it up with, are you still going to pursue it? What kind of changes? Basically, everything that you've just studied and learned about, about this thing that maybe you didn't know ahead of time. Any changes? Any things that you know now that you know you need to do that maybe you hadn't thought of that you might have to do? So think about those things as well. And those will be some things that you will pursue. in your conclusion, at least write about. Maybe you thought, hey, I've just got to get a bachelor's degree in this one thing and then I'll be all set. And then you maybe come to find out through some of this research here, you find out, oh, wait a minute, I need a master's. I also need to go do this other thing. I need to do some volunteer work, right? I need to find a company that I can go get some experience at, being volunteer doing this, or you get an unpaid position, right? You get some experience, or you need to make sure that you work as a X, Y, or Z during this time. They really help your chances when you get to the point where you're ready to go, actually into the workforce, right? So these are the kind of things you can find out, and these are things you'll kind of conclude with. Is, okay, now that I have learned I need a master's, or I have learned that I should probably I need to do some volunteer work, right? I probably need to go. I need to maybe rethink my part-time job that I have now, or what the kind of things that I'm working on right now, and maybe kind of focus it more over this direction so I can kind of get a twofer out of it. So go to school and be kind of working in this field, right? In some way. So those are the kind of things that are interesting that you get to find out about. And here's some additional resources for you. All right. So as you are thinking about those things this week, kind of putting those together, this weekend we'll have our next discussion post, right? And so get these 5 kind of questions here to help us, kind of be thinking about what that thing is that we're passionate about. And just share it with let's say we were having a, kind of like I did explain in the discussion post number 1 that we did, right? What are the things that you're passionate about? And pretend like we're just having a big discussion in class, except we're going to do it on these discussion posts. All right, so answer those questions. Then for your responses, encourage that person, into that. Is there something else maybe that you've thought of, right? Other avenues of pursuit for that level of passion. Maybe you know someone who's in that passion or in that field, right? Maybe you have some suggestions for some additional sources or additional things, maybe just even consider. Hey, I know that you're talking about X passion or X field. My cousin is in that field too, and one of the things I know that he's always said is X, right? Just things like that, right? And anything else that you can think of that would be meaningful. All right, guys, that wraps it up for our week 7 overview. Like I said, the biggest thing right now this week is just kind of getting a little familiar with the project, kind of seeing where we're going, kind of things we're going to be doing, and really kind of what's the passion field-ish, career-ish kind of thing that's going to be your topic for this project. All right, guys, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Hope you all are having a wonderful week. Again, my sincerest apologies for being so late getting this overview to you. But until you see me again, I guess, feel free to reach out. Email me anytime. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, anything, just let me know.